Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Charting with Dan. I'm your host, Dan Murrell. With me today, Lon Harris.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. And just so you know, right up front, we're going to kind of speed through the show today. I apologize. I got invited to go appear on ET Live, which I think you'll be able to see later this week. So we'll share all that stuff. But the flip side of that is time is a little short for me to do charts. Don't worry. You're still going to get the countdown and everything else, but we may rush through it a little bit quicker than usual.
We got a lot of charts. We'll just go through them a little fast.
We're going to set the land speed record. So let's jump right into it. Let's look at the top 5 for this past weekend at the box office. And Abominable, which last week, Lon, we couldn't decide if it was Universal or DreamWorks. Turns out we were both right. It was released by Universal, but it was from the team at DreamWorks that did How to Train Your Dragon. The number one movie at the box office on a budget of about $75 million. So not a massive debut. It's a movie that I enjoyed, though. I didn't get a chance to review it, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. And I suspect, as we'll talk about a little bit later, it may be a little bit more of a worldwide play as well for this film.
Universal. Big year for Universal.
Big year for Universal.
I don't know if we're going to talk about that. But,
we are actually, because looking at 2019, Abominable, one of the few films this year to come out and debut on this size, based on an original idea or concept. As a matter of fact, these are movies that I didn't include a movie, for example, like Yesterday, because Yesterday, even though it was an original idea, is still marketing heavily the Beatles music. Yeah. So these are movies that open this year that are not based on IP, that are not based on sequels, they're not adaptations, they're not based on history. They're just
a person had an idea.
A person had an idea, and Abominable actually number 3 on that list. Us, the number 1 opening movie on that list. Good Boys number 2. Then Ad Astra, which opened last week, at number 4, and Escape Room at number 5. And Universal had those top 3. 1, 2, 3 are Universal. So a studio that is having some success this year with launching original concepts and original ideas is Universal.
Good job, Universal.
Good job, Universal. Well done. With that, we'll see how Abominable continues to do. It is the opposite of the movie that's opening this week. Why? I can't think of a movie more different than Joker. So perhaps there will be some parents that...
He is also abominable.
He is abominable, but not in the adorable way as the Everest from that movie. Sure. Let's look at the rest of the top 5. Downton Abbey, last week's number 1, drops down to number 2. Hustlers, which was number 5 last week, is holding well, which means that in a week where most everything dropped a little bit, Hustlers actually moves back up to number 3, edging out It Chapter 2, and then Ad Astra, which was higher, I believe, number 2 last week, slides down to number 5. Sci-fi continues to be a bit of a tough sell.
Yeah. I mean, also Hustlers, I think it's building off of very positive buzz. Yeah. It's a movie people are talking about and excited about. Ad Astra, I feel like kind of the negative. A lot of excitement going in, and then the buzz is kind of slow. It's a little lugubrious.
It's sci-fi. Yeah. It is heady sci-fi. I actually got a chance to see it this past weekend. I enjoyed it, but I do see why it is definitely not a movie that's going to be universally loved by everyone, because it is very heady. It is very contemplative.
Yeah, sci-fi action, I think, is pretty easy to sell. More thoughtful sci-fi can be a little bit of a challenge.
So we'll look at Ad Astra, although it's continuing to do all right worldwide. We'll continue tracking that to see how it's doing. There is something I wanted to look at that has been referenced, and I wanted to do the numbers behind it, which is that people have noticed, and it's true, that the cast of Ocean's 11, the remakes, they tend to go to space. And I think it's probably because you have a lot of actors who just do a bunch of movies, and some of them are in sci-fi.
If you're an A-lister, you're going to get invited to go to space.
You're going to get invited to go to space. So I decided to look at, according to the Bits Index, to put this on a bit of an even keel, because these movies range over many, many years. I decided to look at the Ocean's 11 space race.
Oh, okay.
And see where Brad Pitt's latest film falls. And right now, as you can see, it falls at number 9 in the Ocean's 11 space race. Now, these are members of the crew. Like, for example, Andy Garcia, not a member of the crew in the original Ocean's 11. However, later would join the crew.
Oh, right. That's
was one of Ocean's 13.
Yes, Terry Benedict joins the Ocean.
So people that were part of the crew. Right. But not Al Pacino or Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Also worth noting, not including Ocean's 8.
No,
because
not including Ocean's 8.
Sandy Bullock would be on there with Gravity.
Sandy Bullock would be on that. Maybe I should include Ocean's 8. I don't know. It's tough. I think maybe I should include it. To be honest, this was something that I just sort of came up with today.
I think it's fair to say 11 through 13, that is its own franchise.
It's its own franchise. Yeah. Perhaps we'll fold in 8. But as you can see right now, according to tickets sold, Pitt's got it over one of Clooney's with Solaris, and Scott Conn all over over Scott Conn, who was in Meet Dave. But as you can see, next up, Titan IE. By the way, Matt Damon, of everyone, Matt Damon goes to space a lot. Elysium, Interstellar, The Martian, and Titan AE, all Matt Damon titles that are on this thing. Capricorn 1 with Elliot Gould, also up there. 5.1 million tickets sold way back when.
Wow, that's the 70s.
And then Don Cheadle's Mission to Mars, Andy Garcia as in Passengers, Elysium, Interstellar. You had two crew members in that one, Casey Affleck and Matt Damon. Matt Damon at number 2 all by himself there with The Martian, and then George Clooney ruling the roost with Gravity. So we will continue to track how Ad Astra does. Perhaps I should fold in the Ocean's 8 crew as well. Who knows?
I'm trying to think, are there any Ocean's 8 members aside from Sandra Bullock and Gravity who have gone to space? I don't know.
We would have to say, has Cate Blanchett gone to space?
I don't know if she has.
Helena Bonham Carter gone to space? Has Awkwafina gone to space?
I don't think Awkwafina's
We'll have to find that out. Anne Hathaway, Interstellar.
You're right. Anne Hathaway also.
All right. Maybe we'll go to Ocean's 8 and we'll fold that in there. By the way, this is not going to go away with Ad Astra. Anytime an Ocean's 11 crew member goes to space, we will be updating the space race. So this is going to be a new recurring segment. Lon, let's look at the top 5 worldwide this weekend. It's pretty close to last weekend. We just bumped Hustlers off, and everything else pretty much moves down one spot. Abominable debuts at number 1, just edging out Ad Astra. This is actually very close, almost across the board. Downton Abbey, It Chapter 2, and Rambo Last Blood rounding out the top 5. 2 things to note for next week's worldwide chart. Number 1, Joker, which is we're going to talk about here in a second, opens in most of its international markets next week. Not China, though. It's looking unlikely that it'll probably get released in China, or at least certainly no plans as
they're
of
looking
right
at
now.
our internet. They're probably like, no, don't bring that here.
But a movie that is opening in China is Abominable, and I think it's one to keep an eye on because Abominable is absolutely steeped in Chinese culture. It is very much, it has themes of family. I think that it is a movie that potentially could do well in the way that we saw Coco connect a lot with audiences there. So I think Abominable could be one to keep an eye on as it launches in China next week. But that's no guarantee. We've seen other films that were made here in the U.S. that were had themes based in Chinese culture that did not do well.
Yeah,
there. I think it just depends on the quality of the movie and if it connects with the audiences.
And we've seen, too, a lot of how they promote it in China. I mean, depending on the success, how well certain marketing campaigns connect, some movies can have real breakout success. So we'll see.
Let's look at the top 5 per theater. And the winner in 2 theaters is the latest film from Takashi Miike, who is a director who has unsettled me in several occasions. He did Audition, Ichi the Killer, lots of movies. A very prolific director.
Yeah, directs maybe 1 or 2 new things sort of every year. Like. And some, like, a lot of them are very troubling, like the one you mentioned. But then there's some like 13 Assassins, which I think is on Netflix, which are much more mainstream. Yeah. Well, the latest from Takashi Miike in 2 theaters here in the U.S., North America. The top per theater opener of the weekend. Now, he's got some art house fans. A movie that I think probably stands a good chance of not only being the top per theater earner, but also the top grossing movie next weekend is, of course, Joker. It is the biggest and only major studio release coming out this weekend. And so to prep us, to not set expectations, but to set context for what's going to happen potentially coming up this weekend, I decided to take a look at the box office history of the Joker. This is his first solo film, as far as a movie devoted 100% to him, although you can make the argument for Batman 89. Batman still gets to be in that one. Yeah, but you got to give Jack Nicholson some real estate. But this is Joker's first solo film. Yeah, first of all, he's the protagonist. He's the... That's a whole other thing. Yeah. I suppose I didn't write it. This is the... so let's look at how Joker has done as a character when they're putting him out front, whether it's a Batman movie or, as we'll see, not a Batman movie. First of all, these are just the raw numbers. The Dark Knight, number 1, Heath Ledger, obviously. Sure. Oscar-winning performance. Jared Leto at Suicide Squad, number 2, not an Oscar-winning performance. Not quite. Lego Batman movie, just the raw numbers. Zach Galifianakis' take on the Joker. People loved it. Then we go back to 1989 with Batman with $40 million in its opening weekend, and then Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which was a shockingly low box office back in 1993. People weren't on that wavelength yet. They needed a few more years. They weren't. Why? It's on TV. Why am I going to the movie theaters? Exactly. So as far as raw dollars, now if Joker, who knows? As we've always said, you can't track enthusiasm. It's looking to have a big
opening weekend.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it's going to hit that number 2 spot and supplant Suicide Squad, although you never know. However, it does look like it should safely supplant Lego Batman as the third highest grossing as far as raw money Joker opening.
This is a tough call because I think it has a lot of stuff that works in its favor. Maybe only from that list we were just looking at, I think only Dark Knight has the sort of wide appeal to people who don't necessarily love comic book movies or Batman or DC, that it's got these huge actors, it's got all of this acclaim, it's played these festivals, critical acclaim, and I think there's just a lot of curiosity about what is a Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie going to be all about.
Yeah.
But I think the some of the news cycle and the negativity around the movie could dampen that. In fact, I've heard a lot of people saying they're afraid to go see Joker in theaters.
It's. I mean, it is certainly. Roth and I did our review about a week or week and a half ago, really before a lot of this had ramped up. And we certainly discussed our, just how we found the material to be both challenging. It's a movie we both recommended, but at the same time said, it's definitely something that's going to engage a lot of discussion and is a very disturbing portrait. And that has certainly been what's driven the news cycle in the last 2 weeks leading up to the release. That could drive more people to see it, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, I feel like I don't know how that's going to play out. Yeah. I think all of that extra attention could make people more curious. Yeah. I want to go see this for myself, and so I can be part of the discourse. But I think it could also go the other way and be like, I want to give this a week or two and be out there in the world before I necessarily go and engage with it. And who knows? I mean, we'll find out next week.
We will. Apart from just the raw numbers, of course, we love looking at it. Let's look at the butts in the seats, and it's a little different, but somewhat the same. The biggest difference being, of course, that when you adjust for actual just tickets sold, Batman takes a big leap up from 1989.
Yeah,
10.1 million tickets on its opening weekend.
Hard for me to believe, as someone who lived through the phenomenon that was Batman '89, though, that Suicide Squad still dominates it so much in terms of tickets sold.
Well, in its first weekend. I mean, not in the long run. But I mean, again, it was, while Batman '89 was as big as a blockbuster got in 1989, the theatrical model was still, this weeks-long thing, and not you're going to make 50% of your money in the first weekend.
And I mean, that was the beginning of the audience for comic book movies, not long since after people had been sold that you love these movies, you're going to want to come see this opening weekend. Yeah. Back then, it was like there were no real comic book movies. This Superman franchise had slowed down, and that was it. That was the only game in town.
Yeah. Obviously, both of these graphics are going to be updated next week. We'll see what happens with Joker. I'm going to be watching with great interest to see both the reaction of people that see it and how the box office does. It's an R-rated film. There's not a lot of precedent there. I mean, Deadpool in the comic book genre, Deadpool and Logan helped lead the way. Blade, obviously, from way back when. Right. But in the modern era, Deadpool and Logan sort of have blazed the trail for modern comic book movies.
And I think this movie's clearly looking to that audience as well. Yes. This is looking at the audience that came out to see Logan.
And I know a lot of people say, what about Watchmen and Road to Perdition? Yes, but I mean, when I say comic book movies, I mean these big mainstream comic book characters who have been traditionally not in rated R movies. We're starting to see more of those walls break down now that we're in a new era for that. So we'll see what happens this week. Let's look at the 2019 domestic box office for the year here in North America. One change, Hobbs and Shaw.
There it is.
Leaps over John Wick Chapter 3 to become the 9th highest grossing film of the year in 2019. Will Joker join that list? We'll see. It'll probably take 2 or 3 weeks at least if it is going to do that. We're going to check that here on the show.
Not by next week.
No, not by next week. I mean,
anything's possible.
Anything's possible, but I think it's very unlikely. Let's look at 2019 worldwide. List again. I believe there was this one there was no change. Same top 10 that we had last week. No shuffling. We're at the point of the year where we have $500 million as your point of entry to get in. So you've got to be a pretty big hit to crack the box office at this point.
Even the new stuff that's going out is going to take them a few weeks to even get in spitting distance there.
We're going to see obviously some additions to that list as the week goes on. And as I mentioned before, if there are updates to be had for the summer movie report, even though we're going into October, we still have some motion on the summer movie report, which is that Hobbs and Shaw and its waning days in theaters has become a top 5 summer movie for 2019 as it jumps over John Wick Chapter 3. So that is going to be your top 5 films for summer 2019 as we close the book on the season. Hobbs and Shaw there at number 5, but a huge gulf between number 4 and number 5. Obviously, it was sweet at the top, and then the middle, everyone was just kind of fighting it out.
Those top 4 bookended by Disney live-action remakes of its beloved 90s animated features.
That's true. Yeah. I think we're going to be adding a year to the end of a lot of titles as we go on.
Yeah, get ready for it.
So, Lon, we are short of time, but of course, I cannot allow that to compromise one of my favorite new features, definitely my favorite new feature of the show, which is the Mountdown to Cats. First of all, let's look. We're 82 days long.
Yeah, I mean, we've got limited time. We can't afford to skip any weeks.
We can't skip any weeks because we have precious few left.
Too many of these damn cats.
And we have so many cats left to meet. So first of all, very quickly, let's run through a recap of the cats that we've met. Of course, first of all, we met Bassavand Jones to be played by James Corden.
Sure.
Then we met Old Deuteronomy to be played by Dame Judi Dench. We met McCavity the Mystery Cat to be played by Idris Elba in a fedora. And then who could forget a Jenny Anydots to be played by Rebel Wilson. And then last week we met a key cat. Grisabella, very key to the cat's mythology. And this week we are meeting a cat that is to be played by one of the greater actors around. So I guess this makes sense. This week we're meeting Gus the theater cat to be played by Sir Ian McKellen.
We got a dame, now we have a sir.
We had a dame and a sir and James Corden.
And Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber.
The whole thing together. Gus the theater cat, as I mentioned, to be played by Ian McKellen, an aging cat who enjoys reminiscing about his days as an actor. He is particularly fond of his portrayal of Growl Tiger, who was a pirate cat.
Again, my same question keeps coming up, which is, it seems on one level like this is a human world, and we're just looking at the cat level of it.
Right.
But then you hear things like, oh, no, he's a theater cat. He's a cat actor who was in cat plays. Like, well, then that's not our world. And cats don't throw plays.
That we know of.
I'm pretty sure in our world, cats don't have plays even when we're not around.
Well, as we learned last week, there is cat prostitution.
Yeah, right.
So I guess there's a cat actor's equity as well.
I don't know. I'm having real trouble.
I can only go with the facts that I find.
I'm having real trouble with the cats verse.
Now, Gus's full name is Asparagus.
Sure.
Gus for short.
Yeah, right.
Now, here's a wrinkle. In some productions, and this is kind of spurred from the fact that when they did the film version back in the late 80s, the original actor who played Gus, unfortunately, could not perform the entire role. So he played Gus as an older man, and Asparagus was actually a separate character. So Gus and Asparagus were two different characters.
Wow.
It doesn't appear that they're going to go this way in the film, but you never know.
Maybe they'll de-age Ian McKellen to make Asparagus.
I mean, they're already doing crazy stuff with his face digitally. You can't really do much worse than they're currently doing, or it would appear. So that may have just been a wrinkle that was added by necessity, although some productions kind of take that and run with it.
It's going to be like Gemini Cat.
Yeah, yes, exactly. You're going to have a Gus and Asparagus trying to assassinate each other. But Gus the theater cat, and if you watch the play, is kind of brings you into Act 2.
Okay.
We'll see if they do that in the film as well. But yes, aging theater cat Gus.
A great cat actor.
A great cat actor of pirate cats.
Sure. And
other wonderful roles, loving to reminisce and tread the boards or whatever they call it.
Doesn't really sound like this is going to be a huge stretch for Sir Ian McKellen.
No.
It kind of sounds like his personality.
It sounds like it's just him playing himself.
If he were a cat.
Yeah, it's Ian McKellen as if he's just a cat.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's really all you need to know about Gus the theater cat. Thank you for keeping up with cats with us. We love doing it, and I apologize that we had to go so quick today, but I'm literally going to run out the door. This week, the big movie coming out, as we mentioned, Joker, set to do very big box office. We'll discuss what it does next weekend. I will be fresh off the plane. Well, not quite fresh off the plane, but I'll be back from New York. That's where I'll be this weekend as we premiere our Galaxy Quest documentary at New York Comic Con. You can check out SJU. We got all the details and everything there. We'd love to see you there if you're going to be there. But I'll be back next Monday, not to worry. Talk about Joker. Also, Lucy in the Sky and Natalie Portman astronaut drama hitting limited release release this weekend. And
she doesn't wear a diaper in it, which is
she doesn't apparently.
It's based on the true story of loosely based on the real astronaut diaper lady, but not completely.
And then Judy, which we mentioned this past weekend, was in limited release, is going into 1,400 plus theaters this weekend. So a big expansion for Judy this weekend. If you wanted to see it last weekend and it wasn't near you, check again. It might be there. So before we go, Joker, it is a complicated movie. It is a provocative movie, in my opinion. I think that's what art is and can be and should be oftentimes. It is meant to elicit a reaction. I'm sure if you see it, it will probably elicit a reaction from you. That's okay. Just remember,
in some ways,
that's great. Discuss. That's what artists generally want, is they want their work to be discussed and analyzed. This is not a war. If anyone is telling you that it is a war, it's because they want something from you, or they want your views, they want your money, they want your clicks,
sell you brain pills.
We are all human beings on this world together, and at the end of the day, this is a character, a beloved character, but a character nonetheless. So I have already seen people that I agree with and disagree with about this movie on all along the spectrum of people that don't like it, that do like it, for all the different reasons. So this, more than most, or a lot at least, seems to be attracting a lot of attention, and that was inevitable, I think. But just remember, we shouldn't be fighting each other. We can disagree and do it civilly. And I think that there is an opportunity here to have some very necessary and good conversations about society, about how we treat people in society, about the consequences of action or inaction. Let's be human beings.
Be civil.
Let's be civil.
Nice
Let's be human beings. Yeah. So thank you for watching. We'll be back next Monday. Until next time. Bye.